Welcome to Trail Manners, the podcast so dedicated to mountain trails and running that they broadcast out of a 78 Volkswagen bus in the mountains. Who does that? Eric and Joel are your hosts and will bring you the trail life as you may have not heard it before. You hear about everything from gear reviews, nutrition to keep you upright and moving forward, and they'll even bring guests into the bus for conversations that you won't hear anywhere else. It's time for some running adventures on a higher elevation. The old 78 Volkswagen bus is fired up and headed to the mountains. Here are your hosts for Trail Manners, proudly representing the 801 with their passion and love for the trails, Eric Manning and Joel Hatch.
Welcome to the Trail Manners Podcast, episode number 58. Today, we're going to be talking with Mr. James Varner from Rainshadow Running. If this is your first time listening, then thanks for coming. The Trail Manners Podcast is produced every week for your enjoyment, and show notes are found at trailmanners.com. Come back often, and please feel free to add the podcast to your favorite RSS feed or iTunes. You can also follow us on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook at Trail Manners. All links are in the show notes. Now let's get after it. All right, welcome to another episode of the Trail Manners Podcast. This is number 58, and before we even get into it, we're in a different venue today. Mm-hmm. I caught Joel drinking a beer. Yep. The Studio 78 is in the shop, as we know. It's been mentioned in the past. It's still there.
Preventative maintenance.
It is. It's still there. So we are now in the Bomber Studio.
Yeah.
How's that?
And when I suggested it today, for some reason, I don't understand why we haven't been doing this leading up to this, because it's warm. It's warm. Enclosed.
And you have the key.
We have a pretty good view.
Yeah, we got the view of the mountains, and we got a view of the liquor store.
And if we want to do burpees, we can start doing burpees.
We can do some burpees, yeah.
We're going to get our guest to do some stuff when we're
That's
here.
That's right.
Because he walked
Live
in.
on the air.
So speaking of our guest, well, first of all, I got to say how awesome it is to have Joel back.
It was a nice break.
He's been making finger puppets the last few weeks, so so he's back. But that makes me excited because now the show is going to be so much better, and I'm okay with that. He's still laughing. That's an inside one. But our guest tonight in the Bomber Studio is James Varner.
Hi, guys.
How you doing?
Great.
So James pulled up, and he came walking across the street with a six-pack of beer. And Joel
he's
says,
my best friend right away.
Joel looked at him and goes, "Oh, I love this guy. He's my best friend."
Pretty much.
So there's a lot of bonding going on.
Yeah, already.
We got James down here. James is on his nationwide tour, right?
Tour for what?
He's got the Trail Film Festival, the Rainshadow Running Trail Film Festival. He just wrapped up a show in Salt Lake City. That's the one I went down to. And then the very next night, he went up to Park City and shared with the masses up there.
Yeah.
And now you are on your way to
Bozeman, Montana.
And then where?
Then to Denver, Boulder, Durango.
You like that tour?
Javelina 100.
Yeah.
Tucson,
Salt Lake.
Flagstaff, Austin, Chicago, Cleveland, Columbus.
Driving the whole time.
Athens. Well, that's a longer story. But yeah, I could keep going naming cities. We're going to go to over 30 cities on this fall tour. With a dozen really awesome trail running films.
So, and they are too. So I was just kind of getting a kick out of that because he's in Salt Lake.
Right.
He's driving to Bozeman, which is north.
It is.
Right, a ways. And then he's coming back to go to Denver, so he gets to go through Wyoming. So that's kind of a quick little out and back, right?
A little,
it's out and back.
A little detour to Bozeman.
It's a lollipop course.
I actually learned the hard way a couple years ago. So this is our third time doing the Trail Running Film Festival tour, nationwide tour. And scheduling the cities by season is important.
Right.
Like driving through Montana or Wyoming, Colorado in the winter.
Yeah, no good.
Not ideal.
No.
Or even New England. We were in New England for a snowstorm. Got to Boston and there was like 3 feet of snow on the ground. So we're trying to hit all the mountain cities first,
right,
and then hit New England after that.
Wow.
And then do like the West Coast and the South and stuff like that when,
gets a little hairier.
When we can do that in the winter and
right,
it's not as crazy.
Well, yeah, I mean, we're jumping right into it. So give us some history and the tour info. How did this come about, number one? Because first of all, it's super cool. And we'll get into that because I was super psyched the other night. But how did this start? Whose idea was it? How did it come about? Were you on a run one day and say, hey, I should do that? Because that's how all ideas start. Either that or hold my beer.
Yeah.
Yeah. Drinking beers, long drives, long runs. Yeah, definitely generate a lot of ideas. The very beginning of the Trail Running Film Festival was just completely organic. It just happened at our Orcas Island 50K and 25K back in the old days when the race was a lot smaller.
Right.
We were just in the lodge the night before the race. Everybody's hanging out, drinking beers, and we're just putting DVDs. Like David Horton's The Runner when he ran the PCT was one, and some old Western States stuff, and just some old classic trail running movies that I just was really excited to share with everybody. When we got like 50 guys and gals sitting around drinking beer, you know, everybody's excited about the race the next day, and you just put in a couple of movies, and next thing I knew, we'd done that for a few years, but instead of having 50 people sitting around the TV, we now had like 200, and it just, you couldn't hear the TV anymore. You couldn't see the TV anymore. So we had a new race in Oregon called Gorge Waterfalls.
Right.
And the race headquarters for that race is at this really cool place called the Edgefield, which is just outside of Portland.
Yeah.
And it's this old brick building, this huge old brick building that's been turned into a hotel, but it's a very special hotel. It's got its own brewery, its own winery, its own distillery, all right on site.
Yeah.
It's got multiple restaurants, multiple bars. It's got like a 9-hole golf course. It's got all kinds of just random stuff.
Come on, rookie.
I'm working it here.
Eric's playing with his phone.
Yeah.
And
Instagram, baby.
So they also have a 125-seat movie theater where you can bring food and beer right into the movie theater and watch movies. So it was just obvious that we had to show our trail running movies there. And I think that was the first year of the Killian films. Okay. And we had a bunch of other good movies. So we had like 2.5 hours of awesome films. And I think within an hour or two, we sold out every ticket.
Wow.
And people were like, well, bring it to Spokane or bring it to Eugene or bring it to Ashland or bring it to Bellingham. Like, we couldn't see it at Gorge Waterfalls. I was like, oh, like this is a thing that people want. Nobody else is doing this. It's, it's kind of like the Warren Miller of trail running.
Oh, yeah.
It's like, I was like, okay. So then we did a 12-city tour around the Northwest, hitting all those places in Washington, Oregon, that were just like, that's like the hotbed of Rainshadow Running and where I have so many contacts. And we did that. And then people around the country heard about it. And they're like, bring it to Austin, Texas. Bring it to Atlanta. Bring it to San Francisco. And I was like, okay. So that was all back in 2013. The spring tour was that 12-city tour. And then in the fall and probably winter, we did at least 24 cities, I can't remember now, around the U.S.
So in the spring tour, were you guys selling those things out primarily?
We were doing pretty good. So
75%?
Like in Portland, we sold out. Seattle, we sold out.
When we say sell out, how many tickets were you selling at that one?
I was 400 people in Seattle, 330 in Portland.
So that kind of carried the other venues a little bit.
Yes, because we went to some pretty small towns, like Bend, Oregon sold out. That was good. That was 150 people in a really cool venue there. But then a few other places it didn't work or didn't work as well. We had less people. And what I kind of realized is it's a great idea, but it's a new idea.
Sure.
And it's like, unless people know about it, they can't show up.
It's like you said, it's the Warren Miller, right? Kind of that initial, you just got to get in, you got to have that name for yourself. Just like Teton Gravity Research, when they first started off, right? Yeah. They had to have that name recognition. Right. Once you got that, it's like money.
Yeah, and they were putting out good films, but if nobody knows about them, then they're not gonna be there. So that's what I've learned is that you really got to do your homework and get the word out early. Because even now, this is our 3rd year. And I was in Park City today talking to Canis in his shop, and he's like, somebody came into the store today. I was telling him about how cool the film festival was, and the runner didn't know it existed. Right. And like we'd been advertising for months. And it's just one of those things, just like any new business, any new project. It takes a few years to get enough momentum where it's like a household name. And, we're not there yet, but we're getting there. Doing things like this really helps.
It does.
Being on the podcast.
For sure.
Well, I like I said, I was down in Salt Lake a couple nights ago, watching that film festival, and it was super cool. Just the layout of it. I mean, and we'll go over some of the films that are there, but just how you set them up, like some quick, short ones up front, and then some longer ones at the end, and it was just like a crazy array of films. I mean, it was running, but it was like, there's a film on like women running and kids and I think
old people.
Oh my God, that I can't still. I was telling Joel about that before he got here. That was incredible. But it's just these different backgrounds and telling these stories. But there's so many of them, and it's like, okay, what's the next one? What's the next one? What's the next one?
So how do you accept those films? Are you getting like so many that you're having to turn them away?
We are. So the festival's evolving. Right. It's not like this set thing yet, where the first year it was just this thing we did in one city, and then it turned into a 12-city thing, then it turned into a 24-city thing. So, but it started out as touring. Right. It wasn't like Sundance or one of the other, like Toronto International Film Festival. It wasn't like that, where it was like, multi-day, all in one place, big thing with awards. It was just these films that I took around the country. We've kind of gone backwards, and we've created a 3-day festival in Seattle where we show as many films as we possibly can.
Right.
Over those 3 days, and we have 5 different award categories. We have an amateur award, we have best picture, best short, best use of humor, best cinematography, and each award comes with $1,000 prize.
Wow!
Even the amateur contest comes with $1,000, and so we've kind of created that 3-day thing to entice people to submit films to us. The first couple of years, I just would stumble upon something, you'd see it on YouTube or you'd see it on Facebook, or somebody, I know a filmmaker, and be like, hey, I'm coming out with a new film. I just stumble upon these things, and that would be what we took on tour.
Right.
Well, now we had over 50 films submitted.
Oh my goodness. For this year?
For this year. And then we whittled that down to, I think, about 30 films that we showed over 4 different shows on 3 days in Seattle. And then we took the best 3 hours, the best 12 films of those over 50 that were submitted, and now we're taking them around the country. And I mean, there were enough excellent films that we could have done 6 hours on tour. Like, really amazing stuff out there. I'm trying to figure out a way to there's one really cool film that we weren't able to bring on tour that I'm going to try to figure out a way to do, maybe a few special screenings around the country and pair it up with 1 or 2 short films or something. It has a really cool message. The star of the show, he's running his first 200-mile race at the Tahoe 200. Yeah. And he's doing it to raise awareness and to raise money for a charity that supports kids and their families with cancer.
Okay.
And basically just providing these services that these kids need that they don't, not non-medical services. So helping them like when their car breaks down and they can't take their kid to the chemotherapy.
Right.
He helps them, that nonprofit helps them get their car fixed.
Right.
It's a really cool message. But then of course it's combined with this guy, average ultra runner dude from Virginia, running his first 200-mile race up at altitude in Tahoe under tough circumstances. And he's a character too. He's covered in tattoos. His nickname is Tattoo Tom. So that film's called Indoor, and I would love to figure out a way to get that out to the world.
Okay.
But so that's just an example of one of the great films that we just couldn't fit onto the schedule of films that we have. But the films we have they're excellent films. Most of them you can't see anywhere else, which is a big thing that we try to do. Try to have the majority of what we show.
And that's just at the 3-day festival?
No, well, now we're talking about what tour.
Okay.
So we did show Indoor at the 3-day festival. We showed a ton of great stuff at the 3-day festival, and then took the very best of the 3-day festival on tour. Okay. With the emphasis being, we gave preference to stuff that hasn't been released yet.
Okay.
So, like it's, even if you've seen the movie before, seeing it on the big screen versus seeing it at home on your laptop is still really cool. Right. Like 4 or 5 of the, maybe even 6 of the short films that we're showing on tour are stuff that you could watch right now on your laptop at home. But when you see it on the big screen and you're sitting in a comfortable chair and you're there with all your buddies and you got your beer in your hand and popcorn, it's different. It's cool and it's highly, in my opinion, I guess I'm biased, but I think it's worth it to still come see it.
Oh, no, it totally is. I mean, just the same thing, that screen,
The
but also the
sound.
people you watch it with when you're in a theater because, like I said, down there a couple nights ago, it's just your running buddies, from different places and, kind of getting inspired and jacked up together like, yeah. What film are we going to film this winter?
Bunch of dudes getting together and drinking beer and getting jacked up.
Yeah, right.
That sounds about right.
Doesn't it sound right?
Yeah, it does.
I mean, that's how all great stories start.
Well, I think that's actually a key part of what we try to encourage. We always try to open the doors to the theater at least a half an hour early, if not like an hour early.
Right.
So people come and hang out.
Yeah.
And you don't have because normally when we hang out, it's like the day before a race or it's at a race or something. And you have that kind of underlying stress of like, I have to focus, I have to be serious, I can't drink too much.
True.
Like I got to be focused on the race.
Can't eat that
but
green
here,
chili burger.
but at the film festival, you don't have that race in the morning. Usually, I mean, we are going to do a mini screening of films the night before Javelin 100, but for the most part, it's just hanging out. It's just like a social event for runners, and yeah, the big part of it is the inspiration. Just trying to, I mean, we advertise it to trail runners mostly, but we also advertise it to other runners and then just the general public as well, because a lot of these films they're not like a ski film or like a rock climbing film or mountain biking where it's like this action-packed, adrenaline-filled thing. It's more like really cool scenery, really cool stories, and just kind of an inspirational message that I think would apply to all kinds of people, not just runners.
Yeah.
Some of those too, because again, sitting in the audience watching some, you have the humor ones that are funny, and then you have some, and you kind of want to look in the mirror, right, and go, God, I'm a loser, right? Some of these people are incredible. Like, I'm trying to think off the top of my head. Is it One Step at a Time? Is that the guy that had the heart transplant?
No, that was Life on the Fells.
Okay, Life on the. That's right.
Yeah. Multiple surgeries. Yeah, heart transplant.
56 surgeries.
So what?
Yeah, that's how many surgeries he's had.
And he's in his 30s. It's not like he's like 80 years old or something. No, he was born. He said in the movie, he says he was born blue. He was a blue baby. He was born unhealthy. And needed a lot of work to keep him alive and to keep him thriving. And I think one of the great takeaways of that film is that he's like, I want to make my donor proud.
Yeah.
Right.
I don't want to waste this chance, this life that I've been given.
Yeah.
I'm going to go out there and do fun, amazing, inspiring things. Like I think he said, I don't want to be a dull boy.
Yeah.
And
that was crazy. Like just this, where he was running was number one, just amazing. It was beautiful.
Yeah.
But just his whole approach to it, like you said, he's like, I don't want to disappoint my donor.
Right.
And just his whole, I don't know why you wouldn't want to run. He's running in like major rainstorms with a jacket, and it wasn't like he was some elite athlete, but he was doing some pretty tough stuff too, And I kept thinking, I didn't know right away that he had a transplant, and then you hear that, you're like, what? I mean, I looked
right, just to look at him, he looks like a normal dude.
Right.
Big old beard, normal ultra runner, and but yeah, running around in the fells of Great Britain, and running into some beautiful places, but. I think the main thing is you just take the story away from that. It's just like, wow, okay, that's cool. And it just kind of gets you inspired to be like, well, that guy's doing it.
He's doing some
I don't have a better excuse than that, right?
Not really.
I still have the heart I was born with. I better get out there and run.
Pretty much.
So in Salt Lake City, there were 12 films. The same films travel everywhere, or do you alternate some here and there, or is it just 12 and that's it?
It's way simpler just to keep it all the same.
Okay.
Yeah.
What we do at like these screenings the night before, so we were just down at Grand Circle in Kanab, Utah, for that 3-day trail festival, which was really cool, really neat thing that they got going on. It was first year for that.
Yep.
1 day of running in Zion, 1 day of running at Bryce, and 1 day of running at the Grand Canyon. And each day you come back and you camp out all together, or some people stayed in hotels in town. But like they had food trucks, they had live music, they had our film festival, they had another film festival, they had award ceremonies, they had Native American ceremonies, they had tons of prize giveaways. Like it was just a really cool let's go hang out in the desert and go run and do all this fun stuff in the evening. So for that, because people had to get up at 5 a.m. to get on the shuttle buses to go run at the Grand Canyon the next day, we only did an hour and a half show there. So there and at Javelina, we shortened the show. But yeah, for the rest of the time, it's just all the same films. It's just, like Banff Film Festival and their world tour, I've noticed that they give like the individual towns the ability to kind of tailor what gets shown there, and depending on how many nights they're going to be there and all that stuff. And one day, that's my goal, is to be like Banff, to be that big, to be able to sell out Salt Lake City for 6 nights in a row or something in an 800-seat theater. That would be really awesome.
That would be cool.
But right now, we're we're at the other end of the spectrum, just trying to make it work. And so logistically, just keeping the lineup the same. That way everybody knows when they show up to the film, they know what to expect.
And you can check that out with, all the listeners. You can go to trailfilmfest.com to get some more information on it, because there's a lot of information. There's dates. Now, let me ask you this. If it's not going somewhere right now on the calendar, is there still potential to go other places?
There
if
is.
Someone calls you and says, man, you got to bring this to...
to Ogden.
Ogden.
Or
Utah.
Omaha, or somewhere in South Florida. Or it's so...
The Bronx.
We're going to Brooklyn.
Okay, that's good.
Close
enough.
enough.
Yeah.
So let's see. Right now, we plan to add at least, I want to say, 6 to 10 more cities to the tour, that we do it the way we normally do, like the show you saw in Salt Lake City.
Okay.
That's probably our maximum amount. That would put us over 40 cities that we'll go to this year.
Is this you that's going around doing it?
Normally, yeah. For the first time ever, I'm having some buddies kind of cover some shows for me.
Right.
I'm in the process of moving actually to Colorado.
Are you?
Yeah, you can see the U-Haul out the window.
I thought that was just you.
No, that's not tour stuff.
I thought it was full of beer.
No.
That too.
That's my dressers and all my shoes and all my clothes and all my furniture is in there. So
you don't have a lot of stuff.
Well,
that's a good thing.
Yeah, my girlfriend has stuff she's got stuff being shipped directly to the house, and I've always lived pretty, like, this is actually kind of normally. I mean, there was one point in my life, everything I owned fit into the back of a 1978 Toyota pickup.
Nice.
Without the cab, just like in the bed.
Right in the
it
bed.
Just fit in the bed.
Nice.
It was like probably like 6 bins of stuff or something.
That's awesome.
But anyhow, those days are gone. But I still pretty light. But so anyhow, back to the tour. We are trying to figure out a way to incorporate all these other towns and cities that want our films, but that we can't, for logistical reasons or time or whatever, can't get them into the tour itself. We're trying to figure out how to make that work, where maybe we can just coordinate with a local running store or a local person there, and have them maybe do a little bit more of the legwork that we normally do ourselves.
Right.
Maybe have a local personality do the MC stuff that I usually do.
Joel would be good at that.
No, I wouldn't.
He loves standing up in front of people.
Does Ogden have the demand for a showing?
Oh,
we
man.
can do it. We can get it.
I brought, of course, you know you had it, but Running the Edge, the Colorado Trail with Scott Jaime. I mean, he's obviously lived here, but we brought that to Ogden to the Egyptian Theater, which holds like 800 or
like 5 million, something
like that.
And
we fit almost about 350 people.
Oh, that's
in there.
great.
And
that's
then the next
awesome.
night we went down to Broovies and filled one of those theaters with it. So yeah, I mean, we definitely have. Ogden is a hotbed, right?
for a trail running. It's like this low-key hotbed.
Yeah.
I mean, you can look out the window from the studio right now, and there are incredible. The Wasatch Mountains are right here. I mean, my second 100 was right here, and I mean, it's just. I mean, Salt Lake City must be just packed full, in Ogden and everywhere up and down, Sandy and Provo. You know, just full of trail runners.
And it's just growing. We got some really good running groups.
Right.
You know, obviously you've been up to Park City, so Park City Run Company, they do a good thing up there.
Yeah,
so,
they do it right up there.
It's definitely growing around here. But yeah, I mean, film festivals do good, I think. And I think it's just, we tried to get the name out for years coming to town for sure. And, we definitely saw a lot of people we know. But because I've had people ask me, hey, how do you get it here? Because I've kept posting, I'm here tonight. I can't wait for the film to start. I'm like, well, come to Pocatello, come to wherever.
Yeah,
so,
Pocatello, big one. They got a good running store there.
They do. And
That
they have a good
Pocatello
running community.
company?
Yeah, they got a good community there.
We'll be in Boise this winter. But, yeah, I mean, there's places all over.
I think it's about the venue, too. Finding the right venue.
Well, so for us, and we're extra picky because they have to serve beer.
Right.
And not everybody does that.
No, that's true. I mean, so there in itself, Pocatello might be a hard fit then, right?
Yeah, not all places have it.
Yeah.
And it just, to us, that's just one of those like deal breakers. I mean, we've made it work. Like, a couple of places we've kind of figured out a way to do it on our own.
Right.
But it's so much easier if the theater already serves beer.
Right.
And it's just, I don't know. I like drinking beer.
Yeah,
I like sitting and watching a movie and drinking beer.
I wonder how many people Luke Nelson's garage will hold.
Well, if he has another garage sale,
quite a bit,
right?
That's right. So another question that people have been asking me, because we've been doing this where we post some things online and we tell people who we might be talking to and like, ask them this.
Right.
In your experience, because maybe not the film side, but what kind of cameras does everybody use? It's not GoPro stuff.
For the most part, it's not GoPros anymore. Although Mike Wolf and Hal Corner did a film last year that we showed on tour where they ran the John Muir Trail, the 16 miles, 200 plus miles, John Muir Trail going for the speed record. And they filmed that almost, I think, entirely with, Mike's cell phone.
Wow.
Really?
Yeah. And it actually turned out pretty well. JB Benna came up with a real camera and got some good shots of them at a couple points. And but again, like these films, it's about the story.
Right.
It's about the characters. And it doesn't have to be the best equipment. That being said, the bounciness, like that's one thing it's almost a deal breaker. If a film gets submitted and it's super bouncy, like it's just probably not going to make the cut.
Right.
So getting one of those gyro stabilizer things, which aren't even that expensive.
Yeah.
There's a ton of them out there.
Getting a drone.
Getting a drone is obviously super
honest.
awesome. That takes it to the next level.
It does.
But I'm not really a tech person. I actually keep meaning to like buy a really nice video camera myself, so I can just like capture stuff when I'm out doing stuff better than my iPhone. But
I thought that was a flip phone for a minute.
But it doesn't. I mean, it doesn't have to be entirely about the equipment, but good equipment definitely helps. That's for sure. But it's really cool with having the amateur contest is. I feel like we had these two guys come and run one of our races, our Deception Pass 50K and 25K race, probably like 4 years ago now, and they weren't pro filmmakers, and they might even just borrowed the camera. I don't even know where they got the camera from. They didn't know what they were doing. They showed up, they made a film of the race, and it was awesome. It was great, and it was just something I'd been wanting to do for our races because our races are really scenic and photos can only do so much to show that scenery. And like, these guys just showed up and they just did it. And I was like, hey, can you guys come to all of our races and do that? And so they did. They did that for 2 years. And we have like 2 race videos from almost all of our races. And we're showing one of them on the tour right now. And
is that the Orcas 100?
The Orcas 100.
That was a good one.
They made a really awesome race video of the Javelina 100 2 years ago that we took on tour. And they've done it for other race directors around the country. And they just started out like complete amateurs. And they learned the art. They asked around to other filmmakers. They got better and better equipment as they had money to do that. And they learned how to do better editing and stuff like that. So it's for anyone out there listening that's at all interested, like you might see like this really incredible film by Joel Wolpert or JB Benna or Matt Trappy and be like, oh, there's no way I could ever do that. But it's possible.
Yeah,
it really is possible. Yeah.
You just explained the whole history of our podcast.
Pretty much.
Well, yeah.
Couple amateurs with some borrowing some gear, getting stuff when they get money.
We bought some.
That's interesting because people, like if someone wanted to not just make a film, but maybe get some ideas of what category to go into or cutoffs of accepting or something like that, would they just go to the trailfilmfest.com website?
Yeah, all that's on the website. Right now, it probably still has our 2016 information. We're going to start accepting films submitted sometime in January.
Okay.
And then the deadline will probably be sometime in July.
Oh, right.
We wanted to have a really strict deadline. I think this year was going to be, in 2016, was going to be, what was it, like July 31st? And it just like, everybody waits till the last second. And I'm freaking out. It's like, we've got this big theater booked for 3 days in Seattle, and we've got like 12 films submitted. It's like we need 40 films, to fill all the time, and we need, and at the last few weeks, last month or whatever, tons of films came in. Everybody waits till the last second, but it all worked out. But it put us behind schedule because we didn't know what we were going to be showing at the 3-day festival, so we couldn't open up the tickets, we couldn't advertise,
right?
And then we didn't know what we were going to be taking on tour, and so then again, like we couldn't open up ticket sales, we couldn't advertise, and so it just creates this domino effect of we're behind schedule, and so I have to find this balancing act of like if we put the deadline too early in the year, then there's all these films that come out after the deadline. And we want to show the newest, coolest films.
Right.
So then we're missing out on all these films that missed the deadline, so we can, be able to advertise and stuff. So I got to find that balance of like setting the deadline in the right place where we can do all the marketing and all the stuff that we need to do, but we can also show the new stuff. And I think what we're going to end up doing is, if folks want to be considered for one of the prizes, they'll have a deadline for that.
There you go.
If they want to be just in the festival or be considered for tour, there'll be maybe another deadline.
Right.
And it's not ideal, but I think it's just the only way we're going to be able to make it work until we're probably like this really big hot shot like Banff or Warren Miller, where like people plan their lives around coming to see our festival or submitting a film to us. Like we're not that yet. It's going to take a while.
Well, this will help.
It will.
Oh, yeah. Trail Manners is going to change everything.
We're global.
My life will never be the same.
Yeah.
It won't. I'm telling you what. You're gonna have a bigger U-Haul than that.
That's right. I have a few new stalkers.
You might have 2 dressers by the time this is over. Man. So I'm gonna let you get a quick moment because I think it's pretty important and interesting and really cool. Like who sponsors the film? Who helps make this possible for you guys?
Oh, well, yeah, that's great. It's so good to thank the sponsors. As you guys probably know, like things like this we can't just rely on charging tickets to cover all the expenses of a tour like this, driving around the country, all that stuff. So without making our ticket prices $30, $40 a person, we have all these great sponsors who chip in money and other resources like helping us marketing and stuff like that. And so Rainshadow Running, which is another thing that I founded, a whole bunch of races in Washington and Oregon. Shortest race we do is 25K. Longest race we do is 100 miles. That's the presenting sponsor. And then we've got Innovate trail running shoes, which are great shoes for super technical stuff, for short, fast races. They've got some stuff for ultras. Their biggest thing that folks think about is their traction. Their company was born in the fells of England, of the UK, where it's a swampy, wet, slippery, grassy, rocky, just gnarly places to run, where they don't even run on trails there. Those fell races, for the most part, you're just running through the woods and through the fields and complete cross country through these mucky places. And so their shoes were designed to give people really good traction for stuff like that. Another one of our sponsors is Territory Run Company.
Yeah, those guys are cool.
Brett Farrell from Portland, Oregon, he's a trail runner. He was working in a running store in Portland and was like, there's no cool cotton t-shirt to wear after you're done running.
Right.
You got all your race shirts, and you got your normal shirts, but you don't have a shirt to be like, hey, I'm a trail runner. Look at me.
There wasn't Trail Manners shirts back then either.
No, it wasn't.
Yeah. Well, that's another thing. You guys are changing the world. And so Territory, they design casual wear for trail runners that are just super comfortable, really nice materials. Like it's usually a cotton poly blend or a 3 blend.
Super soft.
Hold that thought for a second. I told you a couple years ago that was a good idea, didn't I not?
You did. Yep, it's true.
I needed to bring that up.
You did. It's true.
Okay.
Still not too late. Still not too late.
It's still a good idea.
It still is.
You missed
It's
the boat.
not too late.
You
it's
missed
not
the
too
boat,
late,
buddy.
you guys. So they got hats, they got t-shirts, hoodies, socks, all kinds of cool stuff. And then also they just try to foster a really cool community of trail runners. And so on their website, they've got all kinds of great stories and pictures that runners submit. Nick Triolo is a frequent contributor. He's a pretty fast runner guy, but also is just a great writer. He's a professor at the University of Montana, whatever's in Missoula. And just, he writes about really cool subjects. And so you can find some, other than just going there to shop, if you go to the website, you can get just some really cool stories and pictures and stuff like that. And Aspire Adventure Running is a new company based in Washington. They do guided runs in places where you can't have races. So like in national parks.
Right.
Just other places where you just can't get a permit, I guess, for a race. They do single-day runs in North Cascades National Park, multiple different runs throughout the year. They do a 3-day run all the way around Mount Rainier on the 93-mile Wonderland Trail.
That's the one I want.
Yes, I know.
That's what I want for Christmas.
For Christmas.
Yeah,
okay.
Abso-friggin-lutely.
Yeah, and so with the Wonderland Trail, like that was actually, when I first moved out west, when I first moved to Washington, I spent 10 days backpacking that trail, and it's a classic, beautiful, it's one of those things like the John Muir Trail of the Northwest. It's like just everybody wants to do it. You do this big circle around Mount Rainier, which is the tallest mountain in Washington, 14,000-foot mountain covered in glaciers, big old growth forests, wildflowers everywhere, just this beautiful thing. And so the tricky thing about just going and running it on your own is even though you're in a national park, it's really remote. You might cross a paved road in those 93 miles, I'm going to say twice.
Wow.
Maybe 3 times. And to get to the few other like dirt roads that get up to like different trailheads, it's hours and hours around. So if you wanted to ask a buddy to like sacrifice his weekend so you could go run 3 days and so your buddy could support you, it'd be a huge undertaking for your spouse or your friend or somebody to do that for you. And so this company basically is your hired buddy. It's your hired spouse.
I like that.
Well, I mean, I don't know how much they'll do for you, but they'll
we'll stay hired buddy. We'll keep it a hired buddy.
Hired
buddy.
spouse?
Yeah.
Wait a minute.
Your hired helper. We'll just say hired helper.
What's going on up there in Washington?
Right?
So basically, you can almost get like a porter at that point, right?
Right.
They're carrying,
It's like
your gear
crew.
in, right?
They're your crew.
Yeah.
And they'll pick you up at the airport. They'll drive you out to the trailhead.
That's awesome.
Okay. See, that's why I want it for Christmas.
They'll make sure you don't get lost. You know where you're going. Know what you're doing. They feed you. When you get done each day, there's food waiting for you. There's a cooler of ice cold beer waiting for you. It's just you just show up and run and have a good time. And those are your responsibilities.
Your sleeping arrangements are set up.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. They
really
set
don't
up
have to do
camp.
anything.
Massages at the end of the day.
I think you got to pay the
That's
extra
extra.
package. It's like an add-on package.
There's a platinum package.
Yeah, right.
That's probably they do as well as their advertised trips. They also do custom trips. So if you were just like, hey, I want to run the Colorado Trail, and I don't have anybody that can help me, they'll figure out the logistics and help you.
That's awesome.
Man, that trail, the Wonderland, has been on my list ever since I started running. Yeah. And it's interesting. I've talked to a few people about it, but my favorite person is I've talked to Chrissy Mell about it a few times.
Yeah.
And every time I bring it up, she lights up like I can't. She's oh my gosh. It's that exciting, and she's been everywhere. Yeah. And so that kind of tells me something. And number 2, you're going around Mount Rainier. And there was a beer named after that. So there's another thing, right?
How bad could it be?
Yeah, right. How bad could that be? So yeah, that's why I want that for Christmas.
I think that's a win-win. You can't lose on that. They pick you up at the airport.
That's crazy, right?
That's awesome.
Yeah, that's super crazy. What if I fly into like
Portland?
No, I think that's why I was hoping you'd bring those guys up because I started doing some digging because I didn't know anything about them until your film festival. So I think whatever they're doing,
that's a great
it's
idea.
going really well for them because I'd never heard of it. And as soon as I saw the Wonderland Trail, I was on there last night checking it out. I'm like, yep, okay, that's on my Christmas list.
And they're awesome folks. Abram is the owner of the company, and he just, for his whole life, he's probably been in the outdoors, and he kind of works in that world of guiding and outdoor education and stuff like that.
Okay.
But they come and volunteer at our races. Like he's actually on film on the Orcas 100, and the aid station that he captained, they had a lot of different so at our Rainshadow Running races, we try to kind of go above and beyond with food and like beer and music and all that stuff. Like after the race, like we have a mobile pizza oven that comes to almost every single one of our races. We almost always have like live music, like bluegrass or something at the finish line, kegs of beer. But also we try to have really good aid station food too, and not just like gels and
M&Ms.
cookies and M&Ms. Like we try to have some real food there too. And so he took that to the next level and had sushi.
Oh, wait a minute.
Oh man.
Yeah.
Could you get that on the
Homemade.
Wonderland Trail?
They made it right there.
See, the Wonderland Trail would be okay, but I'm not sure about racing and sushi.
Oh, you'd hit it.
I think it's great.
You'd have to.
The sticky rice. Oh man.
Yeah, I'm okay with the rice part.
Well, you could probably do a veggie one. You wouldn't have to do
right.
the veggie roll. You wouldn't have to have a
Ooh, tempura shrimp would be all right.
Yeah, you could.
Well, I don't know if you have to. I don't think you have a deep fryer.
Come on now, you say you took it to the next level. That's next level.
Okay, Joel, if you're listening, you got to get a deep fryer out there.
If not,
we can get one.
Joel do the Nancy Pants sushi just with carrots and cream
dude,
cheese.
I'm all in. I used to make sushi for a living. Come on now.
Well, then you have to go.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's Aspire. What do we have? We've got also Squirrel's Nut Butter.
Yeah.
How could I forget them? They've got the best name out of everybody. I think.
They do. They win. They won this year on that, didn't they? They're crushing it.
Yeah. So they real quick, we did a gear review on YouTube with Squirrel's Nut Butter.
Great.
And I didn't have any, and I couldn't find any. So I said, "Hey, Joel, man, I know you have some. You've got the sample tin. Hook me up. I know you have some." And
I got some in the truck if you need some.
No, I didn't have any. He's like, "Oh, here you go." And it's a little teeny tin, right? The sample one. And I'm like,
I wasn't going to give him the big one.
Yeah, of course not.
The one that's been on the undercarriage.
Well, that's what I thought. So I opened the tin the first time I go to use it, and it's been used.
Yeah.
And I thought, I don't know what he's dipped in that.
Yeah. Well, but you can't.
Yeah, exactly.
You're talking about the little tin that's like the size of a quarter. You can't dip anything in that. You got to scoop with your finger.
You don't know Joe like I know Joe.
I said, I only put the tip in.
So I'm sitting there going, do I want to try this? So I put it in the microwave, and I heated it up and let it solidify again.
How'd that go well with the aluminum tin?
I got a new microwave out of it.
Oh, my God.
But anyway, so that stuff's awesome, by the way. It really is. But I need to get some.
Yes,
so
you do.
Squirrel's Nut Butter, you need to come.
Well, I was listening to your podcast from a few days ago with Carl.
Yeah.
Carl Meltzer. His 2,000+ mile run of the Appalachian Trail said he used Squirrel's Nut Butter the whole way. So if it works for him for 2,000 miles on the Appalachian Trail, it's going to work for anybody.
Yeah.
Jim Walmsley uses it, and it doesn't help with navigation.
But it makes him faster.
It doesn't help you swim better, but he runs fast. He runs fast, and sometimes that's all that matters.
Because he's greased up.
Yeah. So he just killed it, the Grand Canyon. Yeah. You guys saw that, right?
Yeah, we talked about that too on one of our things. So I'm going to go back, rewind 14, 15, 16 seconds, right? He mentioned James Varner, global icon, film festival guru, mentioned he listened to our show.
Oh, yeah. That was important, too. Yeah.
Did you hear that?
I did.
He listened.
Well, I spent a lot of time in the truck driving from city to city, so I got a lot of podcasts to listen to.
Doing what we do. He probably stalks.
He's like, dude, do I really want to go on this? Let me see what these guys are about.
So you got to do your homework going into the interview.
Because he brought beer, so he's like, uh-oh,
yeah,
I better.
Knew.
Yeah, so if you're listening.
I figured if nothing else, we'll drink some beer.
Yeah,
it might be a horrible show, but we'll drink some beer.
It's the burpee beer mile. We're gonna do
oh my gosh, I forgot. We're doing burpees later.
No.
So that's
some kettlebell swinging.
That's your sponsors for.
Yeah, well, I mean, Squirrel's Nut Butter. In case anybody missed, it's a lube that you use to prevent chafing. Chris Thornley from Arizona, longtime ultra runner, done ultra 100-milers. His wife actually developed it for, I think their daughter had some trouble with some dry skin or something. So it was intentionally created for something other than for runners. But Chris got a hold of it and was like, oh, well, this would be great. This is way better than Vaseline or whatever. And so started using that and started giving it around to his runner buddies, and everybody loved it. And so, so they're great. All those companies are, they're just really helping out so much with us getting these films out around the country. We just couldn't do it without them. So thanks a lot, everybody.
Cool. Yeah, and Joel and I can speak on that. I mean, we know how important sponsors are.
We do.
We're sponsored by Joel and Eric. So, we
by
know
your
how,
bank accounts.
Yeah, we know how important
by
those
Wells
two
Fargo
are.
and Chase and
and that dang
credit card.
Yeah, and that collection agency just quits calling me, right?
Is that why you guys have a mobile studio?
Yeah,
maybe.
Right?
Can't track you down?
Yeah, pretty much.
Maybe I'll give you my P.O. box number. We can exchange letters.
Letters.
So, and we'll touch on that. So anyway, if you haven't seen it, again, trailfilmfest.com, check it out. Find it in your area. But make sure you take your friends with you, because if they miss out on that, it's one and done for the year. You got to travel and find someone else somewhere else to do it.
Which is a good idea too.
Yeah, it is. I mean, I was going to go to Park City the night after just
go
because
to
I
a new
enjoyed
spot
it.
And run new trails,
Yeah,
right?
because Canis mentioned they had beer, and I'm like,
well, you know how Canis is.
Yeah, I might need to show up there, but we didn't. So we talked about the film festival. Great job. It is super inspiring.
Right.
From personal experience. I mean, again, the Fells show. I mean, all of them were. I mean, I could go on and on and on. I don't want to spoil them for anybody, but there's some great. Even the short ones were just so cool. Just one-liners. These little messages that pop in your head. So, thanks for what you're doing for the trail running community, because that's just taking trail running to the next level. And just as well as anybody else, and that it's such a cool community.
It is.
Right? And that's anytime you can get your running buddies together and gals and a beer and watch trail running stuff, you can't go wrong. Right? You can't go wrong. So thanks for that. And now we're going to jump in quickly to your races.
Yeah. Oh.
Right. That's a great tie-in. I mean, I wouldn't be doing the film festival if it wasn't for the races, and I wouldn't be doing the races if it wasn't for this awesome community.
Yeah.
I thru hiked the Appalachian Trail back in 1999, and when I was preparing to do that, I'd never backpacked before, and I got this idea in my head. I was going to do it, and I was doing all this research. This was back before the internet was really the internet, and so it was like I'm reading books and all this stuff and trying to figure out what backpack to buy and what sleeping bag to buy. And there was this weekend-long conference out in the mountains of West Virginia called the American Long Distance Hikers Association, and they had seminars and slideshows and it's all kinds of different stuff for like rookies like me to come and like learn from the old pros.
Right.
And also it was kind of like a reunion too for the hikers that had already done the trail and stuff like that. And so I went to this thing, and there's this guy giving this slideshow of his run of the entire Appalachian Trail. And like I ran cross country in high school. We ran 3-mile races, and I ran, now I'm probably like 20, 21 years old. And I'd ran a few 5Ks and 10Ks. And I'd heard of like marathons, but I'd never heard of anything longer than a marathon, and definitely not on trails. And this guy ran over 2,000 miles on trails, David Horton.
Yep.
And so I go up and talk to him after the slideshow, and I was like, this is incredible. Like, I would love to do something like this. How do I get started? What do I do? And he's like, well, there's races all over the country, 30 miles, 50 miles, 100 miles. And it just opened up this whole new world to me. And I went off and I thru hiked the Appalachian Trail, and that's like great community too of these people that you meet out there on the trail. And when I got done with that, I had this idea in my head. I was like, okay, I'm going to start training for my first ultra. I'm going to do these ultras. And I had no idea that the same community awaited me in the ultra world and in the trail world. And I just started doing these races, and I started volunteering at the races. And there was this one race I'd moved from the East Coast to the West Coast, and I was living in Olympia, Washington. And there was this one race director for this fat ass race, like this January. I don't know if you guys know what fat asses are, but they're
don't look at me,
huh?
Don't look at me.
I knew that was coming.
Yeah, right.
I did. I knew that was coming.
I'm getting
for
for
the audience that might not be familiar with these type of runs. They're an informal race. They're usually either free or like $5-10 or something.
Pay for some.
They're
food.
usually they're not marked. There's no T-shirts. You might not even get your results. On Ultra Sign Up. There's no awards.
What? I know. If it's a fat-ass race, you're not getting a result.
I've done fat-asses where you just wrote your time on a notebook.
Yeah.
And somebody posted it on an email listserv thing.
Right.
Spreadsheet.
But so anyhow, so I was helping this guy with this one thing. I helped him do some trail work, and then he's like, "Well, I need help doing this, and I need help doing this." And I was like, "Well, next thing I knew, I was co-race director, and I was like, well, why don't we do a real race in the summertime? Because that was in January when it was crappy out. I was like, why don't we do like a real one in the summer? And it's like, okay, let's do a 50 miler. And so I just was all of a sudden co-race director with this guy John Pirch in Olympia, and it just kind of grew from there. It was like I got the confidence and the experience of how to put on a race, and I just, living in the Northwest, I would just go and I was always training for Hard Rock. Hard Rock's my favorite race. I was always trying to find, the gnarliest places to run with the most elevation gain, trying to get up as high altitude as I could to get ready for the altitude at Hard Rock. And I just kept stumbling upon these really cool places around Washington and Oregon that didn't already have a race. And I was like, well, if we have a race here in Olympia, or if we have a race up here in Bellingham, like Chuck and I was like, well, we got to have a race on Orcas Island, or we got to have a race out on Yakima Skyline. And that's how Rainshadow just got started. It was just, I just was helping out at other races, and I became a race director, but I still had a day job. Did that for a few years, and eventually got to the point where I had 4 races, and I was still working full time at another job, and was like, well, if I had one race a month and just made a little bit of money off of each one, I could quit my real job and start doing this full time. And so I did. And now we have 18 days of races.
Oh my goodness.
I still almost every time I go running somewhere, I'm evaluating it. I'm like, there's no race here.
Right.
I wonder where we could put the aid stations, and I wonder where everybody would park. And, it's so yeah, anytime a bell goes off in my head where it's like, wow, this is a cool place, got to have a race here.
Right.
Now I kind of have to I have to hold myself back, because now we have the film festival, all the other races we're already doing. We've also started doing music festivals, which we're going to be growing into this new project that combines music festivals and outdoor recreation in really amazing places.
And now you moved to Colorado.
I moved to Colorado.
So that's going to be interesting, right?
Well, I put on a 50K in Colorado 10 years. It'll be 10 years ago this coming summer. And so I'm thinking about doing the 10th year anniversary of it. We only did it 1 year.
Right.
It was called the Epic 50K. It had 14,500 feet of elevation gain.
Oh my goodness.
It had, Speed Goat was Speed Goat got 11.
Yeah.
Yeah. Harder than Speed Goat.
Ooh.
Harder than the Rut. I'm going on tape right now.
Where's this at?
It's in Silverton, where Hard Rock starts. So average elevation of this 50K is 11,000 feet.
Oh.
So it goes up and over 4 mountains that surround Silverton.
Right.
3 of them are 13ers, and the short one's only 12.5. It's 1/3 trail, 1/3 crazy Jeep road, and 1/3 cross country. Complete off trail, scree fields, snow fields.
This is like a
elk
good
trails.
mini Hard Rock.
It's a mini Hard Rock. So you had to qualify for this 50K.
Well, yeah.
Hard Rock was one of the qualifiers.
That's awesome.
It's basically everything from Squaw Peak 50 miler. This was 10 years ago, so there weren't as many races to choose from. But basically, it had to be a really hard 100 miler or 100K or something really crazy 50 miler. You had to be a very experienced and so we had half the runners I think used Hard Rock as their qualifier.
Right.
And half the runners did not make the time cutoff. The time cutoff was 16 hours for a 50K.
Right.
And half of these badass runners could not make the time cutoffs.
Wow.
What time of year?
We did it in August.
Okay.
We'll probably do it around Hard Rock when we do it again. We haven't done it for 10 years.
Right.
The winning time, Eric Skaggs and Kyle Skaggs, in 8 hours and 56 minutes.
That's ridiculous.
Second place was 3 hours later. First female was 13 hours.
Oh my gosh.
Wow.
Yeah. We had some really badass runners there that were really just struggling to make the cutoffs.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So anyhow, that's just an example. We try to make really tough races, really beautiful races at Rainshadow. None of them are quite that hard. The Yakima Skyline has 10,000 feet of elevation gain for the 50K.
Is that the staircase one? The
Angel's Staircase, we haven't been able to do the last couple of years because of forest fires. It's in late summer
Right.
in the dry part of Washington.
Okay.
And it just, for 3 years in a row, we either canceled it or almost canceled it.
Right.
And so until we figure out a better time of the year to do it when we're not going to be at such a high risk for fire,
Right.
I can't keep taking people's money and then having to cancel the race.
Sure.
It's just
Because
not
that thing's
cool.
got, what, 6,000 foot climb right away?
Yeah, you start at 2,400 feet and you climb up to 8,000 feet at the start of the race in the first 10 miles.
Yeah. That's hard.
Yeah, so 6,000 feet in
Yeah.
the first 10 miles. Yeah.
Yummy.
But
Yummy.
it's beautiful.
I know. The
It's-
pictures look
Yeah, incredible.
amazing.
So we're going to try to figure out a way to make that one happen.
That's cool.
We have the Gorge Waterfalls 100K and 50K. The 100K is a Western States qualifier
Right.
and a golden ticket race. So we get a lot of elite runners coming to that one.
Mm-hmm.
We just had some friends go up and do that this
We
year.
did. Yeah. Candace went up there.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
so did Harrison and Brienne went up there
Yep.
and ran that.
Mm-hmm.
And they are you doing Waldo now?
We are
Well, are
now
you
like
allowed
the
to say
race.
that?
Yeah, we are the race directors now for Waldo.
Okay.
Yeah.
Craig Thornley from Western States fame created that race over 10 years, probably 15. I don't know. I should know this. Over 15 years ago, probably. And he just is so busy with Western States that he has been looking for a new race director to take over Waldo. And so we're going to do that. We're going to try to keep it exactly the same.
Okay.
Right.
So there's actually really great. That race is a fundraiser for the local ski patrol. It starts and finishes at a ski area
Right.
in southern Oregon in the Cascades, and it's also a fundraiser for the ham radio operators, the search and rescue people, and more so than any other race I've ever seen before, the nonprofits that are benefiting from the race are heavily involved in the management and the execution of the race.
Right.
And so for us at Rainshadow, we normally do all that stuff that they do.
Right.
And so if we came in, we would change everything. We wouldn't have all these people that have been the aid station captain for the last 10 years.
Right.
We wouldn't have, Beth doing what she does at such and such place. Like
Right.
all these people, we just like kick them out and be like, well, we're doing it our way.
No.
And that's not our style.
Right.
That's not what we want to do. That race works perfectly the way it is. We still want it to be a fundraiser for those nonprofits, for those great organizations. We want it to have the same feel that it has, and which I don't think would change anyhow because our races are pretty low key. We always have food and beer at the finish line. They always have that at their finish line, and we're going to bring in a band. They don't normally do a band, but we're going to bring that in. But
Right.
that's like probably the major change we're going to do is we're going to bring in a band to the finish line.
So because we were in this room at 5 a.m. this morning doing a little workout, and one of our buddies, Mr. Harrison Fluman, he said, I told him who we were talking to, and he came up and did the Gorge Waterfall, so he's definitely familiar. He's done them, and he's done Waldo, loves it.
Oh, yeah.
He's like,
That's the one race he wants to go back and do
yeah,
again,
and he
is
said,
Waldo.
he's like, okay, make sure you tell him, make sure they don't bleep it up, right?
Yeah, pretty much. He did.
right?
That's my
that's what
my
people like
philosophy
about it, yeah.
is like we're changing as little as possible. So the nonprofit that actually owns the race is still going to own the race. All their policies and all that stuff is going to stay in place. They're just going to pay us a little bit of money to send me and probably one other staff person down there to take on Craig's role. It's
Right.
like everyone else is going to retain the roles that they have. Everything's going to stay the same. I'm just going to be the guy kind of calling the shots on race day and kind of coordinating things. I'll just be the coordinator. I won't be
Right.
like I won't be a dictator.
Nice. Well, and my lovely wife Melanie has given me the go ahead, and this is on record now.
Now
'cause
it
it's a
is.
podcast.
Right.
She's because
Forever.
I showed her the Orcas Island 50K film last night, and she's like, "Oh yeah, we'll go there.
Right.
Well, you can do that one. Sign up. Where do you sign up?" And the Oregon Coast 50K. We just were up there in September.
Oh, cool.
And I was showing her that. Ginger Runner did that cool little film on that, and I've watched like 7 times. And she's like, "Oh yeah, you can go to that one too."
You can go to
so,
that one too.
So how that works. So
That's great.
I'm just
I mean,
putting
those are
that out
two.
there.
They're kind of spread out. The Oregon Coast race we just did a few weeks ago in early October,
Yeah.
and then Orcas, whether you do the 25K, 50K, or 100 miler, is either in late January or early February for the 50K, or late February for the 100 miler. So
that's perfect because I can have plenty of vacation time saved up
Spread
to go to
out,
both.
yeah.
I went to college in Portland, so I love the Northwest,
Right.
and I've never done a race up. I didn't run when I was going to college.
you
I
ran
was
after a
I was a
ball.
soccer guy.
Right,
Yeah.
right.
So I just chased a ball around the field.
Yeah.
But now I want to go up and do some running. So you fit the bill. You got my fix, and I got the green light. So come on. So I'm going to ask you a tough question right now, okay? Because that's what we do here, right? Of all the races you put on in Rainshadow races, okay, what is your favorite one?
Do you have children?
Yeah.
Which one's your favorite child?
Well, that's easy. That's easy.
You have favorites?
Yes.
Everybody does. They say they don't, but everybody
Oh.
does.
Yeah. I can answer that for him, but I'm
Okay.
not going to. I got a favorite
Gunner.
child.
Okay, I will answer your question. I'll get you off the hot seat.
I'll say my answer too.
We're waiting on yours, though.
So that's usually my answer is like, well, how can you pick like which one's your favorite kid? But I guess we'll see. I don't have kids, so maybe I don't understand.
I have
But
kids. I'll say it. I'm not scared.
It's the one that's still at home, right?
Well, so see, there's a short answer, there's a long answer. Angel's Staircase, because it's our only like super high alpine race,
Right.
And I love like going to Hard Rock. I love here running in the Wasatch up the super high alpine with the lakes and the alpine wildflowers and
Right.
the craggy, jagged mountains. Like Angel's Staircase is high on the list because of that reason. Orcas Island is my first one. So it's like your firstborn. It's like,
Right.
yeah, it's kind of the favorite for that reason. Gorge Waterfalls might be my favorite.
No, wait a minute,
because-
we're-
Okay,
Wait,
let me
wait.
rephrase this. What's your favorite race?
Yeah.
Damn it. That answer could go on forever.
We get one race. We're putting you on the spot, and it's going to sell out after this podcast as soon as you say it.
Well,
So
they pretty much all sell out.
it's going to sell out. It's going to sell out now, and it's
It's
not
gonna
even
sell out
registered
instantly
yet.
Yes.
before the registration even opens,
That's
thanks to
right.
Trail Manners.
They're going to send money to us to register them.
Right. Bribes.
I like that idea.
My favorite race.
My favorite child is Gunner, my golden doodle. I'm starting.
Okay.
It's your turn.
Yeah, right. Oh,
I'm
you
spinning
need to
the
stall.
bottle.
You need
It's
to
on
stall
you.
a little bit longer. All right, I'll give you a two-part answer. I'm going to narrow it down to two. So Yakima Skyline, I already mentioned, 10,000 feet of elevation gain. That one, we just changed the finish line just slightly. We're now on, instead of public land where we have to follow all these rules, we're now on private land.
Ooh, yeah.
And
Party
it's
time.
right
We
on
know
the
about
river.
that.
Yeah.
You can camp right there. It's
Yep.
it's just great for partying. There's all these trees for shade. It's nice. But I think what's slightly better, I don't know.
Come on, who does their homework on time? Who puts the dishes away? Who's your favorite kid? Come on.
I'm going to say Beacon Rock, which is one that most people probably haven't heard of.
I haven't
It's
either.
actually one that doesn't sell out super quickly.
See, that's
And
what we're going to do
makes
for
it,
you.
What makes
Where's
it
it at?
special is
So
it's
where is it?
right on the Oregon-Washington border.
Is it
It's
near
right on the
Beacon
Columbia
Rock?
River. It's
Is it-
just outside of Portland. What makes it really cool is we're at this group campsite. It's this big grass field surrounded by forest on all sides, and it's in early summer, like early June.
Right.
And so a lot of our races are in like crappy times of the year in the Northwest where it's like
Sure.
rainy and cold. And like our Beacon Rock race, I mean, in some of our races, like Orcas, we had a year where it was like almost 70 degrees. It was crazy in February in Washington.
Crazy.
And then like Oregon coast, we just right there on the ocean. Some years it's beautiful and sunny and nice, and then other years it's 50-mile-an-hour winds with
Oh, that's
heavy
right.
rain, just like crazy.
Tornadoes.
Yeah. There was just a tornado. Just the
Yeah.
week after our race, there was a tornado there. Anyhow, so Beacon Rock, because it's like our summer race. It's like
Gotcha.
everybody comes and camps out right there. It's a beautiful, fun course. It's challenging, but it's not crazy hard. It's got a 25K and a 50K, so options for everybody.
Right.
Views of Mount Hood, Mount Adams. It's really close to Portland, so it's easy to get to. And we have a slip and slide at the finish line
Oh,
for
winner.
adults and
Sold.
children.
Chicken dinner.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
and
So like
where-
we're barbecuing out, we're
Oh
we're
my
making
gosh.
pizza. We've got kegs. Well, that one we can't have kegs, so we got an unlimited supply of bottled beer.
you hear that?
Yeah.
Unlimited. That's
I
my
know.
favorite word.
And
And a slip and slide.
it's just this big grass like lawn with people just hanging out, and it just the band is playing. And then this year, for the
gosh.
first time, my buddy has a 30-foot wide outdoor movie screen, and we set that up and we showed like an hour of films.
Right on.
And it's just like people are just hanging out, like kids are running around playing. It's awesome. It's
Beacon
just
Rock,
really awesome.
folks. Beacon Rock is going to sell out quicker
Beacon
than
Rock,
it ever
50K
has.
and 25K.
It's going to sell out quicker now, just so you
It's-
know. So good call on naming that one.
It's
know.
kind of I call it our summer version of Orcas Island, because Orcas Island, We have 150 bunk beds, and you have to take a ferry. It's an hour-long ferry ride from the mainland out to Orcas Island, and people just come and stay on this cool little island, just tiny little island. There's probably like 500 people that live on the island, and you're almost in Canada. Like your cell phone sometimes thinks you're in Canada. It tries to charge you money for being in Canada. You got to turn that little thing off. But Orcas Island is the same thing where everybody comes for the whole weekend and they're all together in one spot, and it's this big party. We have the band play until late night, and people are dancing after they ran 50K. Like runners are actually dancing to the music. And so this is like the summer version where it's all outdoors and you're hanging out in the grass, and it's just...
That sounds rad.
That sounds super cool. So I'm going to have to throw that one on the list now. I might have to substitute one.
You're going to have to change one now.
Well,
3s might be too much.
Oregon Coast and Orcas are the more like spectacular ones that are great for families, where they can go and do all kinds of different stuff up and down the coast or on the island. Beacon Rock is like a good one, like to bring a family and like camp out, like just do the family camping thing. So that's not going to work for everybody. It depends on, how old your kids are or how camping friendly everybody is. And there's a really nice hot springs resort just probably like 10, 15 minutes away from Beacon Rock. So if like your family wasn't into camping, you don't have to stay in a tent. So
that's always good. You got options. So and there's a lot of more information for everybody out there on all his races. And that's rainshadowrunning.com. Rainshadowrunning.com says all the races. And then, of course, you have the trailfilmfest.com for the films. We're going to put you on the spot just for a couple more minutes.
I feel like I'm talking a ton. Is that okay?
That's what a podcast is for, yeah.
We're okay.
Yeah, people can't really see us, so talking's like the key thing here. What's your racing plans? Because you're a runner. You got your running shoes and your running shorts on.
I ran in Park City this morning.
I can smell the squirrel's nut butter, so it looks like you've been running. What's your running plans for this year? You have time for it.
Well, I've been so busy, I haven't put in yet for the lottery, but every year I put in for Hard Rock, and I'll, I still have a couple more weeks or whatever, so I'll put in for Hard Rock again. I'm actually transitioning into the dude in charge of course marking Hard Rock, so even if I don't get into the race, I will be there.
You'll be there.
I've been there. I think I've only missed 2 years in the past 13, 14 years.
Whoa, that's the first time I met you. Was probably like 8 or 9 years ago.
You were there crewing Jaime?
Yeah, and that's the first time I ever met you was in the gymnasium.
Yeah. So that's, to me, that's a big family reunion race. Like whether I'm in it or not, I'm going to go crew, I'm going to go volunteer, do the trail work, that kind of thing. Oh, I do want to get out to the world. I was talking to a guy, I think it's Salt Lake. He was not aware that if you're a never started, this is getting deep into Hard Rock lottery talk, but Hard Rock, super popular 100-miler. It has 3 different lottery categories. If you've finished the race 5 times or more, you're in one lottery. If you've never started the race, you're in another lottery. That's called the Never Started Lottery. And then everybody in between, like me, is called the Everybody Else Lottery. So if you're in the Never Started Lottery and you're just dying to get into this race, come out this year or any year, do the 2 days of official Hard Rock trail work, and your tickets in the lottery are doubled.
So do you know when that is off the top of your head?
It's usually like the weekend before the race.
Okay.
So it works out really well. You can come into town, do the trail work, hang out and run around on the course, which will be marked by then, during the week in between the trail work and the race, and then pay somebody on the race. So Hard Rock is unlike, I think, any other 100-miler out there where it really pays to know the course really well. Like no matter how well I mark the course, like I marked most of the course this year, it's still... You're going off trail for large sections, and you're in the dark, you're in snow, it could be foggy, the course markings that we put up could be knocked down, they could be eaten by animals, they could be taken down by other trail users. And it's just not a normal trail race. So it really pays to come out early and get to know the area and get to know the trails. And so anyhow, long story short, I'm going to put in for Hard Rock and hopefully run Hard Rock again this year. And all of my racing leading up to that is basically getting me ready for Hard Rock. My next race I'm going to do is the Quad Dipsy, which I finished that race more times than any other race. I love that race. It was started by John Mettinger, who was president of the Western States, and I'm pretty sure he founded the Miwok 100K and then handed that off to Tia. I think he He's also the Lake Sonoma founder and current race director. So he's really great at putting on really good races, and he's not in charge of Quad Dipsy anymore, but he's still heavily involved in it. And that's a 28-mile race with almost 10,000 feet of elevation gain. Right. So it's great hard rock training, and it's a double out and back on the classic Dipsy Trail, which goes from Mill Valley, California, which is kind of on the bay side, up and over the Marin Headlands, and then down to the ocean at Stinson Beach.
Nice.
And you go out and back to the beach twice, and so you're constantly passing other runners, which makes it super social, and everybody's always encouraging each other. So it's a lot of fun. I've volunteered at it a few times, and I've ran it 6 times or 5 times. So yeah, that's the only thing I have on my calendar right now.
But a lot will depend on Hard Rock too,
right?
Right?
Yeah, if I don't get into Hard Rock, I'll probably go for a finish of the Nolans 14. I found out about Nolans the same time I found out about Hard Rock, and all of my time and energy has basically gone into Hard Rock. In the last couple of years, I've been going out and scouting parts of the Nolans route. That's definitely a goal of mine, is to get a finish there. Western States, is high on my list. I crewed and paced there for the first time. I've crewed and paced 2 years, a long, long time ago, and didn't go back for another 10 years because I was always going out to Colorado as early as I could.
Right.
But Western is another classic that I'd love to go and try to run a good time there and see how I compare to everybody else over the history of that race. So
awesome.
Yeah.
And all good, tough stuff.
That's right.
James is not just a film promoter,
no,
right? Or putting on, is that the best way? Film
wears
festival.
many hats like we do.
Many hats, and so he's a bad A runner too.
That's right.
But you mentioned to us that we were also, this is such an epic show, we're doing a ticket giveaway for the film festival.
Yeah, okay. We should do that.
So
for any city?
For any city. Did you guys figure out any kind of way to do this?
We'll figure it out.
I thought that was your job, because we got to say it right now. We got to come up with it right now. There's going to be a contest for tickets. How many tickets? 2 tickets?
Let's do 3 pairs of tickets.
Holy cow. 3 pairs, that's
tickets, right?
So it'll be 6 total. But I mean, we'll have 3 different winners.
Right.
Each winner gets a pair of tickets.
Right.
So it'll be to any city.
Any city.
Let's see. Why don't I post something on the Trail Running Film Festival Facebook page about being on the show with you guys tonight.
All right.
And talking about the tour that we're doing for the film festival. And those people have to like it. Let's just say like.
What's your favorite summer race? That way they have to actually listen to the show.
Okay, so they have to comment.
Yes, they have to comment.
They comment on that post.
Your favorite Rainshadow race in the summertime.
Not everyone's run one of our races.
No, yours. In the summertime.
Your personal one.
You've already said it.
You've already said it. I can't say it now.
Wait, what do the people have to post?
What your favorite?
Help them out here.
What your favorite Rainshadow race in the summer is?
Right.
Oh, they have to know the answer.
They have to know the answer.
The answer to the
question. We want
question.
them to listen to the show.
There we go. That's perfect.
And that is deep into the show.
So you can post, what is my favorite race of Rainshadow in the summer?
And then
the answer is?
Right. And so everyone that posts, the answer is Beacon Rock.
There we go.
There you go. Just in case you weren't listening earlier.
Yep.
And so out of everyone that posts a comment on that post with the correct answer, they'll be in a contest, a drawing.
The first person that puts Beacon Rock, everybody's like, I guess it's Beacon Rock. They're just going to put Beacon Rock.
Then they'll be in, right?
Yeah, they'll be in,
This isn't like rocket science contest stuff here.
And we've only had one beer, so it shouldn't be that complicated.
Yeah. So that's it. So you can win.
Right.
Should we change it? Is that too hard? Should we just say, like, what's the code word? Should we have a code word and they have to enter the code word?
What's your safe word?
All right, we'll just stick with Beacon Rock. Let's keep it simple.
To get into my safe? What are you talking about? It's numbers. You got to punch some numbers to get into my safe.
Dude, if your safe word is numbers, go for it, all right?
I like it.
Okay.
That's good.
That's what it is. So
you got to listen to the podcast to know the answer.
They should.
3 pairs of tickets. So 3 winners.
Yep.
Each winner gets 2 tickets to the film festival. Any location.
Right.
For this year. And they have to post the answer
on your Facebook page.
And say the Facebook page they got to post it to.
The Trail Running Film Festival.
There you go. So you got to go like the page while you're there. I mean, that's the easiest part.
Yeah.
And then put your comment.
Yep.
You know what the answer is, and we'll have the drawing there, and we'll announce that.
When are we gonna cut it off?
Yeah, when's it cut off?
That's a good answer because the showings are happening right now.
Yeah.
So
but
when's this show gonna air?
so this show is going to air on what's today? Today is that day, so that it's gonna. Oh my gosh, this show will air on November 1st.
Okay. So let's say we'll give people
A week.
Okay. So November 8th, we'll announce the winners.
8's my favorite number.
It
it's
is.
perfect. So November 8th, we'll announce the winner.
So the cutoff's November 7th.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Midnight at November 7th.
There you go.
There you go.
We just made this so complicated.
No, we
Utah-
didn't.
Utah time.
You got to be specific about this.
The cutoff for
Yeah.
the tickets is November 7th at midnight.
You have to have
Utah
clear
time,
rules.
which is Mountain
You got to
Standard
have clear
time.
rules.
If you come in after the cutoff time, it's like posting a movie to his film festival. You're
After
not
the
going to get
deadline.
in.
No.
Yeah.
So that's your deadline
Right.
of the answer to
And
his
that
favorite.
that'll work for any show starting from probably Chicago on November 9th on.
Okay.
So all the Midwest shows, all the East Coast shows, all the South shows, all the West Coast shows.
Wow, November 9th. So people will be able to be enjoying the World Series in Chicago at Wrigley.
Ooh,
if they
or
get
not.
No,
Yeah.
I'm a Cubs fan. It's going to happen. So
No, they're when they're at Cleveland is what you really mean to say
No.
because Cleveland's already in.
they are.
Yeah,
but
Cleveland just locked it up.
But
right.
I'm not afraid of no goats. So I'm a Cubby. So that will be the.
It's right after the election, too.
It is.
What election?
Oh yeah, right.
Yeah, Carl didn't know what you were talking about.
Yeah.
It's like,
He was,
what election?
he was playing silly.
He was.
He was like,
he
"Oh,
he
man."
follows the news.
I told him before we had the show, I said, here's some of the questions. I'm going to ask you some questions. This is one. Do you want to touch this?
a
Someone
trick
asked
answer.
it. And he's like, oh, yeah, I'll
question.
answer that.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh, okay, cool. Because I didn't know the answer. So that's it. That's a ticket giveaway for,
All right.
for that. So this has been an awesome show. 'Cause
Yeah.
It's been, we're sitting on some boxes for box jumps.
Yeah.
I did box jumps probably on this
gotta
box
get on
this
it.
morning.
Yeah.
As soon as this show's over, James is going to bust out some burpees.
Yep.
And some thrusters,
Right.
right?
No.
And some.
I'm going home.
Joel's like, no, it's going to be
I've been here all day.
bedtime.
I'm
Next
going home.
time.
Next time. So thanks for coming on the show.
Yeah, thank you.
Taking
Thanks,
the
you
time.
guys.
I know
Thanks
you're
for the
busy.
beer, too.
Yeah, I know you're busy with everything you're doing. Here at Trail Manners, we're going to be promoting this show nonstop. And the
Right.
last thing I want to talk about the show, which I can't say enough about, is the logo.
Oh yeah.
Are you kidding me? When I saw that logo, a tear got in my eye.
Yeah.
So the logo, if you haven't seen it for the Trail Running Film Festival, is an 80s VW bus.
Yep. It's like a Westie.
It's just money. It's got some running shoes from the mirror. It's got, what mountain is that? Was that Rainier?
That
Are we gonna
might
call
be
it Rainier?
that might be Mount Hood.
Hood? Okay, well, I'm good with that.
Yeah, Brett from Territory Run Company designed this, and his local mountain
Yeah.
is Mount Hood. So that's
Yeah.
probably the inspiration.
It's just awesome.
It is.
And it
It's
makes
pretty
me,
solid.
I'm like, man, now I can't even touch that because we have a bus that we like to play around with our logos on. But that's an awesome logo. So right there. So we'll wrap it up.
Yep.
So you can get on the road. You're headed to Bozeman. To see
Or at least
some
halfway
mics.
there tonight.
Right?
Right.
You'll see some mics up there.
Yeah.
A couple pair
Mike
of them.
and Mike?
Yeah,
Mike and Mike.
A couple studs will get on the show. So
Eventually.
make sure you let them know they're going to come on the show. Thanks for bringing the beer. Thanks for
Yep.
hanging out with us.
Appreciate it.
We'll have this show on. Don't forget about the contest, and please do yourself a favor and get out not only to the Trail Running Film Festival, but get up to one of the races 'cause it's
Yeah.
in the Northwest. They're gorgeous. Go online, check them out. I don't care what you do. Rainshadowrunning.com for the races, trailfilmfest.com for the film festival. The film festival is awesome, so make sure you get there. So thanks for coming on the show. Thanks for bringing the beer, and good luck the rest of the summer. And if you see a film submitted by me and Joel next year, don't be surprised.
Yeah.
No, that'd be great.
Yeah.
I want it. Thanks,
Yes.
you guys.
We
I
got
really
some-
appreciate it.
Yeah, we're in it. I already got the idea, so we're good.
I'm afraid.
No finger puppets.
Yeah. Your safe word again is what?
Numbers. All right, have a safe trip. Thanks for joining you, and we can't wait to have you back on next time you're through town. All right, thanks, James. Thank you for listening to the Trail Manners podcast. We'd like to thank James Varner for taking the time out of his nationwide film tour to talk to us. You can check out more of James at Rainshadowrunning.com or head on over to trailfilmfest.com to get more information on the series there. We also would like to encourage everybody to follow us on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook at Trail Manners, or swing by our website at trailmanners.com. There you're going to find a ton of cool gear from beanies, hats, shirts, and some hoodies. You can also hit us up on the contact page. You can let us know what you want to see, who you want to hear, and if you would like to be on our show. Until next time, this is Eric Manning with Joel Hatch reminding you, You don't get what you wish for, you get what you work for. Now go get it.